All right. Welcome to the Framework Podcast, where you change your thinking, you can change your life. I'm your host, David Waselko, along with the co-host, Tyler Burke. How are you, my friend?
I am doing great.
As always.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is making you great this week?
What is making me great this week? We just launched a new, pretty amazing AI assistant called Ian. So, anybody out there listening, if you're remotely in the disability world at all, certainly in Arizona, you can check it out, omnian.ai. It does some really, really cool things to assist both families of people that have developmental disabilities as well as the professionals that support them. So, super excited about that shit.
Revolutionizing and modernizing, taking care of others in service of others. It's incredible.
And I think that it's time to, there's so much hesitation around the use of AI and some
Yep.
new technology. A lot of times people tend to see it and really go down a negative path.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely one route.
Mm-hmm.
The other route is to embrace it, get in front of it, and hopefully be a part of making it a good thing and not something that we're forced into later. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know what's bigger, your brain or your heart, but I think both are quite substantial. And you're harnessing it to empower people, harnessing AI and your creativity to empower people, to revolutionize a sluggish, bureaucratic, backwards, upside down, tangled up, fucked up mess of a system.
Mm-hmm.
And I love every minute of it. It's really impressive.
There's a fortunate human being to be able to get paid for something to be very passionate about and to do something that really makes a difference in a lot of people's lives. So,
Fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you're in the same boat.
Well, I think we're fortunate human beings to have you doing what you're doing. And I mean that. You have this model where you can do good, do right, and make money. I mean, that is the holy trinity of, I think, success and, dare I say, righteousness in life, in entrepreneurship. It's really amazing.
Yeah. Well, the first two of those three is working. Still
Yeah.
get some folks around to embrace some ideas and
Right.
You know.
Yeah. That is the fun side of social services. We were joking off air. If we were in defense contracting, we'd be rolling around in $1,000 bills. But the tree from which we pluck is a little thinner, but nonetheless brilliant and really exciting. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So tonight we are going to talk more in depth about the thing or a thing that really rips apart relationships of all kinds. We're going to really focus on marriage and romantic relationships here, but be mindful that everything is relationship, and the relationships are all about the rules, and the conflicts are all disputes regarding the rules. But if this phenomenon that we're talking about takes place in a relationship with a coworker, with a boss, with a friend, with whomever, same thing applies, but we're going to kind of focus on marriage and romantic relationships. And the focus is competition.
Oh boy.
Now, I'm not Gordon Gekko. I'm not going to say greed is good, but I'm not going to say blanket competition is bad. Competition can be a really good, healthy, productive thing. But I submit that when it occurs in the context of a romantic, intimate, marital relationship, it is destructive every time. There's no place for competition in a marital or romantic relationship, and yet there's competition all the time, which is one of the things that leads to so much conflict and dysfunction and chaos. And so we're going to talk about some specific examples of that. But, you know, when you think about it, the framework is all about collaboration, moving away from competition towards collaboration. That's what happens when you do a rule negotiation. So if you're sitting there thinking about your marriage or your romantic relationship and you're asking yourself, well, do we have a problem with competition? How would I know? What are some of the dynamics or feels or things that occur when competition is occurring?
How would I know if I have a problem with competition. I win all the time.
Right. Right. I don't have any competition, so therefore I don't have a problem with competition.
Competition, my ass.
Yeah. You can't handle the truth. So if you ever think or feel or you hear that, there's this phenomenon of, we're keeping score, or you're always keeping score, or one-upsmanship, if there's constant comparison, if there's belittling of a partner's successes, um, if there's an individual needs focus that is excessive, if there's undercutting, I mean, all those things are examples of what happens in competition. And ultimately, the problem with competition, and it comes down to one phrase, if you take nothing away from this podcast to the beginning and the end, take this. Relationship is about moving from me to we. When we have competition, we're landing way too hard, way too often, way too consistently on the me, and we're not talking about the we. Whereas collaboration is about the we. Because when you do a rule proposal followed by a rule negotiation, a process ensues such that a rule is produced that is reflective of the values of both parties. So by definition, it's we. But if we're doing competition, that begins with me. And though I say self-awareness is what we need to leverage to do relationship awareness, that is true. But that doesn't mean we go me first or me only. If you're going to be in a relationship of any kind and have any hope of success, you better start thinking about we right now.
It's interesting as you're setting this up, because I would assume that probably most relationships don't start out like this.
Mm-hmm.
Where it, going from, meeting to dating to getting serious and, early marriage and things. Is it fair to say at this point, and maybe we'll get to it in a little bit, not to jump forward, do you think that there's like a underlying cause to most competition, meaning resentment, bitterness, something like that, like something in the marriage? Because if it wasn't there in the beginning, and again, maybe it was, but I would assume for most people it's probably not. Is there something like that really kind of feeds into this? Have you found?
Yeah, I'd say a couple of things on that. And it's a great point. It's a great question. It's not jumping ahead at all. That phenomenon you were just talking about, bitterness and resentment, I would say that is what we would call recursive, meaning can go both ways.
And you can't read it?
Well, I can still read cursive. Come on, you're a Generation X. We're the superior generation. We can still read cursive. Was that Nick Bargates, that hilarious comedian? He talked about taking a typing class in 8th grade. And he's why am I doing this? Cursive is the future. No, it's recursive, or you might say bidirectional, but recursive, meaning one of the outcomes of competition is the acquisition of bitterness and resentment. But recursively, one of the engines that can drive competition is bitterness and resentment. So I find it to be, clinically speaking and theoretically speaking, recursive, to answer that component of your question.
Yeah.
But then on the other part of it, which is when does this start taking place? And I bet this doesn't really happen so much in the beginning of a relationship. I would say competition is one of the most covert things that happens when you put your best foot forward as opposed to your authentic foot forward. Because if you're putting your best foot forward, you are making private those competitive tendencies because you're trying to win the approval of whomever you're courting or dating. But then once the relationship is established and the truth starts coming out, we start realizing just how very competitive a person may be and
Surprise.
over what. Surprise. Yeah, right.
Okay.
So does that address both parts of your question? Yeah. Okay. So then, to your point, and to that point, what competition really does then do is it undermines partnership, right? Because we're focused on me instead of we. And when partnership gets undermined, when partners get undermined, lots of things happen like insecurity, resentments, a lack of trust, a lack of safety. A lot of tension and anxiety can start tinging the environment because of this. And it can also lead to manipulation, if not some abusive dynamics. So competition is bad juju
Hmm.
in relationships. It's just not good at all. So we need to be able to recognize it. We need to be able to identify it, just like we do with any problem. But then we're going to take the next step, which is why it's therapy done different here, consulting done different here. We're going to start talking about the solution, right? But first, we'll do problem identification. Then we're going to start talking about solutions because that's what the framework is all about. Okay.
You know, you said it's moving from me to we,
Right.
right? I would assume that there's probably this almost a very similar dynamic anyway of moving from you to we,
Sure.
meaning like you're the problem, you're right,
Yeah.
focusing on
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's fun and useful to have a catchy phrase like moving from me to we.
Yeah, I like it. I wasn't trying to mess it up.
No, and you
It's a good one.
didn't.
That's a very good one.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I pull one out every now and then.
Yeah.
Um,
You should try it on the golf course.
Now, listen, Daddy has pulled out some significant things on the golf course, and you witnessed some
Yes,
of
you
them on
have. Yes, you
Saturday.
have.
Yeah. And shout out to Jim Venetos for making me even better and spending time with me today in an individual lesson. You're the best, and I'm so grateful for you.
And Jimmy's asking for another lesson for free.
Well, listen, I'll take whatever that guy's willing to give. I'm ready to soak it all up and
Yeah.
work my tail off to implement it because the competition on the golf course, I can't wait until I'm just consistently whipping both your guys' asses.
Yeah.
So competition there is good.
Okay.
But in all seriousness, let's not overdo this. Meaning, when I say we got to move from me to we, I'm not talking about becoming this self-sacrificial lemming who doesn't advocate for anything and just accommodates all the time. Not at all. What I'm really talking about is your perspective. Okay. When you think about what you're doing, it's going to go one of either directions. Is it going to benefit you, which is the me, or does it benefit we? And that should be the first litmus test in any romantic or marital relationship. Is what I'm about to do, is what I'm about to say, moving me closer to me or moving closer to we? Me is obviously a part of we, but we isn't necessarily always a part of me. And that's the thing we have to understand about this, especially as it relates to competition, but as it relates to many other things.
Mm-hmm. I've actually been in a number of just friendship relationships that fit this exact same sort of dynamic. You know, I mean, it's always about the other person. They're always one-upping. They're always, fill in the blank of how there's just so little. It's so one-sided.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very universal concept and thing.
Yeah. And so think about how you feel in those kinds of situations.
That's terrible.
Yeah. We might describe it as I'm frustrated or that pisses me off, but then it goes to it hurts my feelings. I can feel enraged. Yeah. So true. And I appreciate you highlighting that. True in all these relationships, relational configurations, I should say. Okay. So what are the top 5 examples of competition I see taking root in marriage and romantic relationships? And what do we do about it? Now, certainly there's more examples. We're just kind of not arbitrarily, but selecting what we think are the top 5. And the first one is, I'm just going to call it, my role is more important than yours. So that could be role in the marriage, role in the family, the role that you believe that you function in, the contribution that you think that you make is more important than the other one.
That one, again, probably didn't start out that way. I would assume that is probably a learned habit over some time of feeling underappreciated. I don't know. I'm bad. That's a question, not a statement. I'm just trying to think through sort of times in my life where maybe I have felt like that or something like that. And I'm wondering as I'm talking out loud, as one does, thinking out loud, of kind of where that really came from.
Yeah. So, our response on the question of where did it come from?
Yeah.
Immediately I go to the rules, and immediately I go to agents of socialization, which are family of origin, teachers, coaches, clergy, school, all the different things, media. A classic example of this is, my role is more important. My role as breadwinner is more important than your role, whatever that is, however that's defined.
All you do is make dinner and it's still not all that good.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so where does that come from? Well, certainly that can come from family of origin if you're sort of replicating what might be considered a traditional nuclear family kind of a configuration. It can come from gender stereotypes about what the appropriate role is based upon that. It can come from philosophical belief systems that if, whoever's generating more money, more revenue wins because they have more power, more control, more whatever. But there's this belief, and I think it's a kind of a form of entitlement, but also a form of ego, and it could be a cognitive distortion, really. My role is more important. And so now we've got a role competition that befalls a couple. And then that leads to values conflicts and propositions and all kinds of dilemmas. Or you should, if we're talking about strategies that people use to kind of manipulate this, an example is you should be more grateful for me because my role is more important. So you start shaming the partner to persuade them to value you the way that you believe you should be valued, and you believe you should be valued as above because you think or have this belief that your role is more important.
So two thoughts on that. One, it's probably important to point out that it could in fact be that one person in the relationship is just not contributing.
Right.
Which is fair. And two, I'm wondering if when I have sort of experienced that to various degrees, not a lot. I don't identify with this one too much, but there has been times where maybe feeling unseen or underappreciated, or like the attempt of making my role seem more important was almost like a bringing it to light to get recognized or something. So I think it came out in that aspect a lot.
And what do you think the why was behind that?
I think it probably was just maybe not feeling appreciated. Or seen.
So there was an unmet need to be appreciated, and therefore it kind of went there.
Sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it can be used to manipulate, to gain competitive advantage or comparative advantage. It can be used to excuse bad decision making or poor choices. I My role is more important because I make more money, or I'm the breadwinner, therefore I'm entitled to special dispensation, special privileges, extra time, whatever the case may be. But it all defaults to this competition over whose role is more important. And that's a classic example when we're talking about financial contributions.
I heard that a lot in the church too. Where there was always very much like an elevation of the man as the head of the home, the head of the household, as sort of being the final say, the final authority, the leader. That there was always so much emphasis on sort of that.
Yeah, and oftentimes that one gets really corrupted in the human world about the man supposed to be the spiritual leader of the home, as the leader of the home. But it's actually the spiritual, not that. But yeah, that's a good place. And the other way that this happens is when it's flipped. So one of the things we're seeing a lot and have been seeing a lot for the past, certainly 5 years, maybe last 10 years, women very often are making more money than their male partners. And yet they're both, in one way or another, often, not always, socialized to this norm that it is men that make more money. And certainly, knowing about the glass ceiling and about the history and everything else, that was the case, but that's no longer the case as much. Women are, earning quite a bit, and often they're earning more than their husbands. So now we've got my role is more important thing that is combining traditional gender stereotypes with how valuable am I based upon how much sort of revenue I'm generating, and competition on power and control very much flourishing in that space. Go ahead.
That seems like one hell of an ego rub too.
Yep.
Very much a challenging masculinity, challenging the right.
Yeah, and challenging femininity too. I mean, because if you think about it this way, if the woman is the breadwinner, now maybe for the first time in her life, she's facing the idea of being ultimately responsible for everything that's going on in the house when it comes to finances. And men are kind of accustomed to that. So men are trained and socialized to the belief that, hey, that's what it is to be a man. But if that's new in a woman's experience, especially if she's coming from a more traditional family system model where the dad was the breadwinner and mom wasn't, or whatever the case may be, that's a brand new phenomenon of pressure. And it's been interesting for me to see it clinically when women talk about the idea of the feelings of stress and anxiety that they experience because they realize that they're now the ones that are responsible and everything's kind of riding on their job. And there can be a lot of stress and pressure there. And then the man is saying, well, welcome to the club. That we've been dealing with this for a long time, kind of a thing. So it can really run both ways in a lot of different directions simultaneously. But it always comes down to this idea that my role is more important, or my partner thinks that my role or this role is less important, and the competition that ensues between the two.
So they complain when they don't get paid enough, and then they complain when they make too much.
Way to throw down some good old-fashioned misogyny there.
Don't send emails.
That's going to get us more viewers. We're going to end up on some fucked up websites, I think. Yeah, so however it is showing up, the competition is about one person believing that their role is more or less important than the other person's. And so that's a pretty common source of competition.
Yeah.
Here's another good one. Number 2, this belief, I'm a better partner than you. And one of the first initial ways that I see this, but certainly not the only way as a therapist, is when a person sends their spouse to therapy because they know that their spouse is fucked up and that's where the problems are,
Yeah.
or when a spouse comes in and kind of confesses, maybe honestly or maybe because they've been trained to, and basically says she's better at relationships than I am, or he's better at this than I am, and we're here because I suck at this. And there's this competition over sometimes who is the better partner.
Hmm. That seems very. That sounds kind of victim-y to me.
Okay.
Like if to be the one going in there, like, yeah, I'm just no good at this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it could be an honest assessment. But is it? Do you find that they like that? That's a. It's like just throwing their hands up and being like, I'm bad at this.
Yeah,
And I know they're
often,
sitting in your office. Apparently, there's some attempt going on, but
right,
you know,
or cover for an attempt.
oh,
But I oftentimes I see that as weaponizing incompetence.
weaponizing incompetence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, keep going.
I'm no good at communication, so what's the point? Fuck it, I'm not going to do that. Or you know what? It's clear that she's better at all this than I am, so why even continue trying? What possibly could I contribute to this situation when this one is clearly so much better than I am?
That's like weaponizing a victim mentality. It seems like.
Yeah, that's why I said weaponizing
What
incompetence.
That's kind of a bullshit move.
Oh, it's a definite bullshit move, and it's a
Yeah.
manipulation, and it also is a great way to do the constant comparisons,
Yeah.
right? Because that's when we can start talking about someone's former partners or former relationships or whatever.
Mm.
And the I'm a better partner than you kind of a thing can also be, I learned so much in this relationship and I became such a better partner, and you're like way back here. You need to get trained up and you need to get better at communication. You need to get better at sexual awareness and competence. You have all of these spots where you got to catch up here, and or you're going to be left behind, kind of a thing.
This seems really rooted in anger.
Oh, very much so.
Just like pissed, like very angry.
Yeah, and resentment is a form of anger.
So we're talking about moving from me to we.
Mm-hmm.
If you're that pissed off and just deeply angry at another human being, that may not even be a desirable thing, at least initially. I mean, I suppose they probably want it, but I would imagine there's probably a fair amount of folks that don't even like are struggling to push through the anger piece to come back to that connection.
Yeah, and imagine what happens if that's the competition and you win that competition. Mm-hmm. And you get to occupy the space of I'm the better partner. Mm-hmm. Now what?
Because that feels good.
And that is where what we see, the result of this competition is that it starts out as a zero-sum game where there's a winner and a loser. Mm-hmm. But what happens is that everybody loses because of that. Mm-hmm. And it is the victory of me over we ultimately, right? So it's bad enough that we're competing over that, but if you win, everybody loses. Mm-hmm. And if you acquiesce, everybody loses. Mm-hmm. But I think that some people, and this is where the manipulation comes in, it's trying to incentivize someone to elevate their game or get better at something or to meet needs or whatever. But it also means that we're standing in a place of judgment and using shaming techniques and saying, listen, I'm so much better than this. You need to get better in order to get to my level. Mm. Right? And so the person is thinking oftentimes that they're creating incentive, but what they're really doing is shaming that other person and de-incentivizing. Mm-hmm. Because what then does the other person win in a competition if they do become better? Who wins if someone becomes a better relational partner?
I'm just trying to incentivize this piece of shit to, to try to come over on this side and
Yeah.
be better, be a
Yeah.
better human being.
Yeah. What do you get? The employee of the month reward? Like you get your picture on the wall? Like, I don't know, you know. But yeah, I'm a better partner than you.
Mm.
So now, this is also obviously about power and control, right? So if someone declares that they occupy a position where they're a better partner, then what that means, in part, functionally speaking, is sort of what they say on partnership issues goes. Well, you're right, you're the expert, you're, better partner. I guess we'll do things this way.
Mm.
So there's that acquiescence, even that accommodation. Well, how are you functioning in a good partnership if what we're working with is decrees coming from an expert as opposed to agreements coming from a partnership?
Mm. I also hear a lot of just disrespect in that.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
just a lot of it seems like the as you're talking, what I'm imagining that looking like in my head
Mm-hmm.
seems like a very, very disrespectful place. And that's a really hard environment
Yes.
to find a middle ground in.
Yep.
and
Yep.
to really meet as a we
Yeah.
when you feel so disrespected.
Right. So now let me talk. I love that you brought that up as a respect issue. And I'm going to use one of your favorite terms. I'm going to flip it on its ass and talk about the covert disrespect version of this.
Mm-hmm.
The covert disrespect, the covert disrespect version of this in this example is the following. I'm just not very good at relationships. So there again, we're kind of weaponizing incompetence,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The person is trying to come off as or perceived as someone with limitations. I'm just not very good at relationships.
I'm doing my best, but I just can't.
Right. Right.
What do you want from me?
What do you want from me? Or what this is what you should expect from me. Or, you know what? Fine. You win. You're better at this than I am.
It seems like meeting the expectation sounds impossible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what they're trying to communicate.
Right. And the covert message there is your expectations are too high. But I'm just going to go
lower
ahead.
the bar, man.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm just going to go ahead and take the hit and
Yeah.
comfortably declare myself as someone who's not very good at relationships. And notice that's how they're trying to win that competition, because the way that they win that competition is to put an end to that discussion and to avoid it and to dismiss it altogether.
Mm.
So then what is left to the other person who is trying to inspire better partnership in the other person is total defeat. Because if we acknowledge that I'm just not very good at relationships, well, then where the fuck do you go with that? Other than, well, then get better.
Mm.
Well, I'm just not very good at it. So now the distancer, the avoider, the negator, the dismissive one, just won that competition. And when they win, both parties lose. And that's an ultimate me over we, wrapped up in false, fake humility, weaponized incompetence.
I'm going to use that one.
It's a good one.
I do.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Mm-hmm.
All right. A third one in our top 5. My time or my issue, they're interchangeable, is more important than yours.
Mm.
Now, I see this one in a variety of ways, but before I jump into that, what does that bring to your mind, this example of my time or my issue? Either one is more important than yours.
Let's say, I mean, there's a lot of similarities in what we've already discussed, both from, you know, from a money standpoint, if my job, my time at work is more important than your time watching Oprah, or is Oprah even on anymore?
No, I don't
Just
believe
aged myself.
so.
Watching TikTok.
Sure.
um, so I think that there's same thing with probably the financial aspect. I make more, so my time's more valuable, or even my time with the kids is more valuable than your time at your job or something. That's what I'm thinking through. So I think it's, for me, it brings me back to my first point of just feeling unseen and feeling unheard. And there's just so much disrespect getting communicated in that. Nothing equal, nothing there. There's just such a disrespectful hierarchy going on there that there's a lot going on in that dynamic. This seems like a really frustrating, unhappy place.
There is, and hierarchy is a great word, and that speaks to that power and control piece. And it speaks to, as we were discussing off air, status. A belief that one person acquires that they are of higher or more important status, and therefore are entitled to or have earned special privileges or special accommodation or what have you. The more tricky ways that this emerges is in stuff like, well, my trauma is more important than your sexual needs. Or my chronic pain is more important than equal distribution of household chores. There's where things get often weaponized or used as manipulation or what have you. And there's an implicit shaming that goes on there too, because the idea is you don't understand me. You don't respect my trauma. You don't respect my pain. You're so wrapped up in your needs for sexual intimacy, you don't even think about me. And there's the manipulation. Because implicit in that or underneath that is a belief my trauma, my pain, my issue, or my time is more important than your issue. So if your issue is sexual intimacy or frequency and my issue is trauma or chronic pain, mine wins. And so we have a competition between the issues or the time.
It sounds like a competition on who's the bigger victim. And this
can be
this
one.
This one seems to be especially tricky too, because I think it sounds like that person is feeling extremely justified in that position, and to the point of it overtaking any other type of reality.
Right.
It's probably a very frustrating conversation to have with that person when they feel so entitled or justified in that place.
Absolutely. And then again, using your phrase, flip it on its ass. If the person is so entitled to their own me-focused sexual needs being met without attending to understanding or respecting whatever constraints or limitations partner may be experiencing, that dynamic is then occurring that way too. So it's recursive. It can flow both ways. And then when manipulation, guilting, shaming kicks in as a strategy for winning the competition, then we end up with the feelings of insecurity, of resentment, of tension and anxiety in the environment, and even to the point where we're starting to throw shitballs at each other and do verbally abusive or emotionally abusive types of things. Something's wrong with you that you want to fuck all the time. That's not normal. What is normal is my way. There's a competition. Now, in the framework, certainly we would call that a rule dispute. There's a whole ton of rules here. And I think maybe that you had your finger on this without calling it by its name earlier, maybe, unless I misunderstood. But when you were talking about the complexity of these examples that we're talking about, I think the reason why it's properly understood is really complex and kind of intricate is because there's multiple rules that are in play in those situations, and therefore multiple points of dispute amongst those many rules happening simultaneously.
Before you got into all this, you did what'd you call it? You're like a war something or other. You know what I'm talking about? Like before you got into, you've never looked at me like that before. I'm not this far off my rocker.
I'm just confused.
What did you do before you?
Oh, you mean career?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's it called?
A lot of different things, but studying war and terrorism, foreign policy, national security stuff. Yeah.
Okay. It sounds like your career's not changed that much.
Oh no, it hasn't at all.
This seems like
yeah
some war level conflict.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're talking about warlords and clans and all. Yeah, for sure. No, when I say I have been a student of sorry. When I say I've been a student of conflict for over 30 years, I ain't lying.
Yeah.
The only thing that has changed is the scale. You know, it used to be that I was studying all this in a global perspective and trying to understand it by nation states, sub-state actors, terrorist groups, whatever. Now I'm trying to understand it in marriages, and it's the same fucking thing. Or other relationship configurations. Yeah. So I have been a student of conflict and its causes and its resolution and how to prevent it and why it gets protracted for coming up on 8 presidential administrations.
That's an attempt to make you not sound overly old.
That's exactly right. 8. Yeah, someone has to do, some multiplication there to realize, oh, that's why there's so many gray hairs and that sexy ass beard of his. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, I have been doing this for a long time.
It just made me think of nations at conflict.
Yeah. Yeah. And, why do we go to war? Competition. So here, since we went there, one of the most classic examples of this in international relations is the Peloponnesian War and the cause of war between Athens and Sparta. And Thucydides, who was a famous philosopher and is widely regarded as the creator of a fundamental position or political theory in international relations called realism, wrote kind of a magnum opus on this. And his central research question in writing the history of the Peloponnesian War is what caused the war. And one of his fundamental conclusions was what caused the war was something he called the security dilemma. And the security dilemma is very simple, very obvious. When Sparta started taking measures to protect their own security because they saw the Athenians as the badasses on the block, they were doing what they were doing to protect themselves and to defend themselves, increase their security. But when the Athenians saw the Spartans do it, it produced alarm in the Athenians. And so what did the Athenians do? They built theirs up. And when the Athenians built theirs up, that provoked alarm in Sparta. So the security dilemma is a lot about perception and misperception about a country's efforts to secure its own borders and how it could be misinterpreted as threatening. And then, of course, in the international system, that is characterized and governed by a concept called anarchy. We have an anarchical international system, which basically means there's no supranational authority with any kind of enforcement mechanism over all the states in the system. So each state, which is a country, is fundamentally responsible for their own security. So the security dilemma, therefore, ensues, right? A good example in more modern parlance is the Cold War. Eisenhower was one of the first to put out this belief that the Soviets had more missiles than we did. And as that continued throughout the entire course of the Cold War, there was this tremendous arms race and who can have more nuclear weapons and who can have intermediate and long range ballistic missile delivery systems and long range weapons and all these other types of things. And as the Soviets made moves to secure their own borders and their own interests, well, that was alarming to the rest of the non-communist world. So then the Western world would do what they did, and that was alarming to the Soviets, right? So we saw the Cold War, and then, of course, we had mutually assured destruction and all this other shit. Point is, in a marriage or in a relationship, sometimes when someone tries to secure their own position, it creates alarm in the other, and there could be conflict there too. A classic example of that is you have a partnership and one person decides to get themselves into the gym and eat cleaner and get in better shape. And the other person, for whatever reason, doesn't want to do that or doesn't think they can do that or is afraid to do it or what have you.
Oh, look at you, Mr. Healthy.
Yep.
Mr. Fitness Man.
So now we have to eat, chicken instead of Hot Pockets or whatever. And so a variant of that dilemma can occur just within that context. And yes, warfare happens in relationships. There is relational warfare all the time. And I jokingly refer in family systems therapy, a lot of times kids are functioning as little jihadists, throwing bombs and, doing all kinds of terroristic bullshit inside of family systems, right?
Yeah.
So very, very similar phenomenon and all based on warfare, all based on conflict, which has been my area since college.
Well, you're welcome for me setting that up for you to geek out a little bit.
Yeah, I did geek out quite a bit there. You're like, what the fuck? We started talking about competition relationships, and now this dude's talking about Thucydides and the Peloponnesian War. Yeah. Well, welcome to the framework into my brain.
Karen, you're Sparta. And
Joe, you're Athens. And here I am drinking from a Yeti that Tyler hates and waiting for that sponsorship from Yeti. There it is, right
Wish
there.
I could throw that across the room.
I don't know what is the disdain you have with my Yeti.
I just don't like looking at it all the time. Like it's half the picture frame.
Half the picture frame.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Sounds like an exaggeration.
Well, I mean, yeah. And it's huge.
Well, I mean, thank you.
What is this? 5 inches?
That's
5 inches, right?
Now this
is 5 inches.
That's male measurement if I ever saw it. I'm going to say it's 32 ounces. I ain't talking about inches. We're not getting into that debate. Okay. All right. So source of competition, my time or my issue is more important than yours. If we're competing about whose problem, whose struggle, whose challenge, whose strength, whose opportunity, whatever it is more important than the other, then we're going into competition. And that leads to one-upsmanship. It leads to constant comparisons. It leads to belittling partner success if they achieve it. It leads to undercutting. And then that leads to tension, anxiety, insecurity, resentment, all the things. And those are the conditions under which we go to war. And if we're talking about high-level values, that's what our rules are, like my desire, right, need to have sex or to eat the foods that I want to, or spend the money on this vacation, or spend the money on this car, or spend the money on this remodel, right? Relational warfare can ensue. And that warfare is intensely damaging. And that is why 56% of marriages end in divorce because of warfare. So if you want to be a relational expert, you got to be a warfare expert, in my opinion, and understand what causes war, what causes conflict, and how do we mitigate it? How do we understand it? How do we prevent it? How do we resolve it? And war doesn't have to be the way that we resolve the dispute, but sometimes it is.
Well, there's certainly no collaboration in war.
Mm-mm. Not amongst enemies,
Mm-hmm.
unless we're doing back channel communications like Kennedy and Khrushchev. But
Oh,
that's another
easy over
matter.
there. Easy over there.
All right, I couldn't resist. All right. Okay, here's another one that is, on the one hand, almost kind of funny. On the other hand, kind of mind-boggling. And oftentimes, when informed by the kids, both parents realize that they're wrong. But here's number 4: competing over or because I'm the better parent, or you're not as good of a parent as me. Go.
So to reword this one, you're
Alrighty,
saying,
sir.
well, not to reword it, but to clarify what I'm hearing. Let me tell you what I hear you saying, David. You're actually saying not from the kid or the child to the parents, but the each parent actually being prideful that they are superior than the other one.
100%. Yeah.
That's your point.
Yeah. The other thing was a joke. But yes, that's my
No,
point.
I know. Yeah. I'm just clarifying.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was true, why would that make anybody feel good?
Thank you. Keep going.
Well, I'm just curious on what would be presenting between people in therapy to where that would be something other than like disheartening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like that's fucked up ego shit.
It is.
Or something.
And the question that I have asked many times when this is a source of competition in a marriage is this: let's assume you're right. What do you win?
Yeah. Well, and the same thing for the kids.
Right.
And what are you even modeling for the kids at that point?
Right. And then, by the way, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have to have a competition over who's the better parent? Because now that speaks to other things, like, for example, well, I need to be validated by my kids. And so now I'm turning my kids into emotional support instruments to validate my own existence as a parent. Or it's because we're getting damage in the first example. My role is more important when I go to work and earn the money. So now I need to find a way to have recognizable value that's not undermined. So I say, well, sure, you're making the money, but I'm doing the important work of raising these kids, and I'm with these kids all day long while you're not with these kids. And then you come in and you think that you're this, that, or the other thing, And now there's a competition over that. Or there's a competition over whose job is harder. I'm at work all day, I'm dealing with this. There's all this stress, there's all this pressure, there's all this anxiety. Therefore, when I come home, I want to experience this. And then the other person says, you want to talk about stress and anxiety? Let me tell you what I've been dealing with all day. I got this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're competing over who had the harder day, who has the harder job, whose role is more valuable, who's the better parent.
I mean, the arguing about the day and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it really seems like you just don't. If you understood what I did today, then you would know that I had the harder day or something, right?
That I win.
Yeah, right. It seems like there's just a huge aspect of not being seen or heard.
Yes.
But the idea of competing to be the better parent is bad, and I don't mean to belittle or hopefully not coming out any way of shameful or something if that's someone's experience. I mean, it's a lot of people's experience. I hear. I'm struggling with that one for some reason.
Where are you struggling?
On why that would be a place to compete.
Well,
because I mean, I understand like when you're full of bitterness and resentment and anger and things at your partner, how that can just things can go off the walls, and it becomes very
Mm,
conflict oriented, and um, competition becomes this thing to win. But
mhm.
who the hell is winning when you're talking about children
Right.
like that?
Yeah. So,
That baffles me.
yes, and phrased that way, which is well, it is baffling. But let's go to a more specific example that therefore would render it maybe less baffling. Um, Say we have a two-parent household and both parents are working, and so we're talking about distributing
Mm-hmm.
some of the parenting jobs, and one of those jobs is taking care of all the school stuff for one of the kids, right? So if one parent is more engaged and is noticing the homework assignments and the folders and is participating in the teacher conferences and taking the kid to school and making the lunches or all that stuff, right?
Mm.
Or can relate to the kid differently or better because of problems the kid is presenting at
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and feels like they become the go-to person for that, or feels like they're doing more than their fair share of that,
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden it can be sort of that competition. And to your point, it's talking about feeling undervalued or
Mm-hmm.
disrespected or undermined or not appreciated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's, I'm upset because you're taking time to play your video games where I'm still working through, the ABCs and the 1 2 3s with,
Mm-hmm.
Johnny and Cindy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a competition over distribution of time and workload, dressed up as I'm a better parent.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I ask for this, it should be given to me because I do all these things. And so it becomes transactional
Mm-hmm.
or conditional. But those are some of the ways also in which the I'm the better parent can come out. And then the place where this really comes out is when we're talking about potential divorce or when there is a divorce, because
Mm-hmm.
now that competition is huge because we're trying to talk about what's in the best interests of the kid,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, I'm such the better parent than this person, therefore I should receive or get dot dot dot.
Mm-hmm.
But even in the context of a marriage where divorce isn't on the table and part of the discussion, it can be a source of pride. It can be a way to put down partner and compete that way.
Mm. All right.
Now,
I have no frame or whatever on this one at all. One, I grew up because my parents, single mom, dad was non-existent. Didn't have that dynamic, right? Or
mm-hmm,
there was, but it just wasn't spoken really.
mm-hmm,
Um, and with my ex and my kids, she was a great mom.
mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah. So
So I'm
this,
I'm just over here kind of trying to wrap my hand around the dynamic because it's
yeah, you're searching
very
your
new to me. Yeah.
experiences and not really finding them within your
Yeah. Yeah.
experiences. I think that the competition over I'm a better parent really has taken effect in a more modern world simply because both parents are having to work.
Mm-hmm.
The era of the single income family household is either over, or it's just so rare that you can barely sort of speak to it and reach a common audience with a
Yeah. Yeah.
common experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so then what ends up happening is a competition over who is being the better parent. So who's taking the kid to the karate class and who's spending time with the kid coloring and who's doing this and who's doing that. And it really is often about other things, wanting to feel valued, respected,
Mm-hmm.
appreciated. But here we're weaponizing a role that we should both be sharing and then using it against one another to win something.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes, what you're trying to win is putting your partner down or making them feel sufficiently guilty for not doing a good enough job, not being more engaged, or because they're doing other things and you think they should be doing these things. So you're manipulating, guilting, shaming. Those are all the ways that competition on that can come out.
It's interesting. In every one of these examples, you've talked about how one party is weaponizing something towards the other.
Yep.
It seems like that's the basis of this type of competition is an active conflict where you're actively weaponizing some form of something towards the other person
to meet a strategic objective. Yep.
Yeah. I think when framed like that and to think about competition in terms of what am I weaponizing right now can be a illuminating thought.
Yeah, I really like that theme that you're sort of finding in that discussion. And then when we start saying, well, what is competition? And we're thinking, okay, competition's about power and control. One of the most efficient ways to have power and control is to be in possession of better weapons. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, the fifth and final one for our examples, top 5 examples of how competition can wreak havoc in a marriage relationship or romantic relationship is the competition over who gets to be, who needs to be right.
Oh, shit.
So,
hey, just because I get to be right a lot doesn't mean that it's my problem, David.
Just because I am right all the time doesn't mean it's my fault.
I mean, I'm basically the victim here too. I'm kidding.
This is in so many ways, that's how that one actually plays out, that funny dialogue that we had. But one of the ways that you'll often hear this, and I hear this in couples and sex therapy frequently, is someone will turn to the other one and say, you always need to be right. So we're actually competing over the frequency with which somebody gets to be right versus the frequency with which someone is declared wrong, you know? And, a really good, again, because I love this technique that you have and this phrase you have when you say, let's flip it on its ass. Well, we know someone that hates to be wrong. So there it is, flipped on its ass. If you hate to be wrong, then what's its corollary? You love to be right. You need to be right. And if you're not right, you can't be the expert. You can't be the person deferred to. You can't be the one with power and control. And if you're known to be wrong, well, that's quite the ego hit. But then there's this fear that we're doubting your confidence in your competence. Because if you're wrong, maybe we shouldn't trust your advice. We shouldn't trust your opinion. Well, I can't have that because if I'm in that position, then I got no hand, as George said in Seinfeld. I'm trying to get hand in the relationship. I got no hand. You start to feel disempowered. So then your need to be right increases more because you're trying to achieve a sense of power and control and agency or whatever. So there's this competition over who is right. You need to be right. It's not okay for me to be wrong. All this other stuff.
So I think there's a lot behind this one of like if we bring it back to a romantic relationship. I mean, clearly this is a gigantic like ego move or ego play. But like ultimately, where does that come from? Like, is this the easiest way to try to get power? Is to just try to? It seems like I don't want to say low hanging fruit or something as far as a play to get respect or something.
I think in large measure, not exclusively, comes from compelling unmet needs and an attempt to do need fulfillment. I think in part that's where it comes from. So if I think that I know what's wrong with my partner, and I am convinced that I'm right about that, and I win the competition and can demonstrate that I was right, well, then maybe now I can be heard on this. I can be understood on this. Maybe this behavior can change. Maybe I can achieve need fulfillment.
It's an attempt to elevate status?
Yes, that too. And flipped on its ass, it can be very gratifying when we hear, yeah, you're right. I was wrong. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to go to ego fulfillment, but it very often does or can for people, or they're craving that satisfaction of that happening, daydreaming, fantasizing that it would happen. But on the most basic level, it's a validation. It's like, okay, this perspective that I had generated from these experiences that I have had was accurate. And now I'm on the receiving end of acknowledgement. Okay, I feel better. I was right. They were wrong. All right. So maybe you won some acknowledgement. Maybe you won some understanding. Maybe even some appreciation. But what did the person who admitted that they were wrong win? And ultimately, what do you gain simply by being declared right or the victor? And again, flip it on its ass and let's talk about the covert manipulation version of this. You're always right. I'm always wrong. You're right. It's me. I'm the problem. I'm always wrong.
That drives me nuts.
Oh, yeah, that'll light my ass on fire. Right. But there's that victimization piece. There's that manipulation piece. There's that dismissiveness piece.
Yeah. All right.
And it's weaponizing dialogue in a big way.
So you're in a relationship with this. Right?
With this.
Well,
yeah.
it's not
This is Wes, yeah. Yeah. So this shit's going on. Yep.
How in the hell do you collaborate?
Yeah, right.
With that, because that seems like a very difficult place to compromise or have give and take.
Yeah, you can't. When competition ensues, collaboration up and disappears like a fart in the wind, right? That's why competition is so dysfunctional in relationships like this. Competition is great on the football field. It's great on the basketball court, great on the golf course, great in a lot of different things. Even free enterprise capitalism. Competition is very good, right? Until it becomes a monopoly or all the other things. In a relationship, bad juju every time, every day of the week, twice on Sundays. It's bad. And that's why you can't collaborate if you have a competitive spirit. If you are infusing your romantic or marital relationship with any kind of competition, you cannot, by definition, collaborate, because you're creating a situation where you think there's a zero-sum game and a winner and a loser. It's the same thing in warfare. You're looking for the ultimate victory. And what have we seen in warfare for the past 70 years? Has anyone really ever won? No. Right. I mean, the last time there was really total victory in warfare, World War II, right? And there's lots of arguments to be made about what else was lost or other problems that were created as a result of that victory, right? But there's no collaboration when there's competition and when there's warfare between couples going on. There's collaboration between alliances and other partners. And here's where it gets really, to use the clinical term, fucked up. Because if there's competition, warfare, conflict between mom and dad in a family system, just like we have in warfare and international relations, where we're building alliances and we're working together, where alliances get formed and built inside family systems. One kid takes dad's side, kid takes mom's side, or all the kids take one side versus another, and then those alliances can be shifting. And so that becomes a part of the strategic maneuvering and the conflict, all because we're trying to win. And when we try to win, everybody's losing. And that's not really collaboration as more as it is collusion, right? So competition prevents collaboration in this kind of a situation. So if you're noticing any of these competitions or competitive dynamics, know that it is in the way of a gratifying, satisfying, sustainable relationship because there is no room for collaboration. And if you've got two people who are aspiring to be or think that they are or trying to be alphas, and you got two alphas in the room, and the room is a room of relationship, good luck. Good luck.
It seems like perhaps a common way to think about it that's likely false. If you are stuck in a very competitive mindset, is the idea that, well, I have to lose a little bit so you can win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is kind of skewed way to think about it.
It absolutely is, because the language and the concepts we're using right from the very beginning are off, right? Because who says that in compromising, accommodating, negotiating, there's any loss whatsoever? Because it's not an either or proposition. It's a both and proposition. Both parties can gain in collaboration. One party has to lose in competition. It's like the famous Roadhouse line, did you ever lose a fight? And anyways, or something like that, is that nobody ever wins a fight. You really don't. Because even if your opponent is knocked out unconscious, bloody on the ground, right? That doesn't necessarily mean you've won. Is they're going to get up the next day, right? That kind of phenomenon.
Yeah.
And if you're married to that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to be right. That can be an ego thing. That can be a fear thing. That could be an insecurity thing. It could be a status thing. It could be lots of different things. But if we're competing over that and we're trying to create a winner and a loser in terms of rightness or wrongness, we're heading in the wrong direction. Okay. All right. So what do we do? Well, to use one of Jim Venitos's phrases that I love so much, let's do what we do and do it better. Let's do the framework. Let's apply the framework. All right. So for all of these things, what do you do when there's competition? Well, we want collaboration. How do we get collaboration? Well, the first thing that we do is we understand that why we're competing and what we're competing over is primacy regarding rules. And what are rules? They're values, needs, wants, desires, fantasies, preferences, right? So if we have a value that work, let's say, is more important than parenting, then we've got a rule dispute that's going on. Well, what do we do when we see that rule dispute? Okay, it's a dispute regarding the rules. We got to identify the rules, and then we got to start proposing new rules so that we can move into a negotiation about things. So if we're competing over whose role is more important, what I'm suggesting is that we negotiate an understanding of the value of each other's rules.
Mm-hmm.
And so that might play out, for example, in saying, okay, what do you need or want to be properly understood as a person bringing value to this relationship, even though your role is different? What do you need or want? Same thing. And then negotiated between the partners about what is needed and wanted on that so that there can be value assigned to both and that value can be understood. And what a person may need or want to get there could be highly, highly variable. But as long as they're functioning as an honest reporter in that, and as long as they're making those proposals and answering those questions with precision and specificity, now we can get there. Because then we can say to the other person, okay, what do you need or want to feel comfortable and confident accommodating this request, this proposal? And what happens in that dynamic of back and forth, far from competition and far from acquiescing, compromising, tit for tat? No, no. What really happens in collaboration is an experience. And the experience is this: I realize and learn through this experience that the more that I'm willing to accommodate this request from partner, the more I'm simultaneously investing in getting my own needs met. That's what collaboration is. And what that collaboration produces, the outcome, is a rule that is reflective of both parties. In other words, it's reflective of we, not me.
Hmm.
So that's how we apply the framework to do conflict instead of having conflict do us. And that's how and why we do collaboration, not competition. Because competition rips apart relationships. Collaboration sustains, protects, and honors relationships.
Mm-hmm. You know, it seems like a lot of the competition that we spoke about tonight could probably very often sort of creep in without it being even overly intentional.
Yep.
Just almost as a response to whatever kind of wackiness is causing it.
Sure.
So it takes far more intentionality to overcome that and to do everything that you just said.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love about it is how practical it is,
Mm-hmm.
and quickly shifts can happen
Mm-hmm.
to get really strategic and intentional on those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
very actionable. That's what I've always loved about working with you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and that's what's so cool about the framework is that it's actionable, it's practicable.
Mm-hmm.
We can literally put this into practice. It's not up here in the theoretical, right? It's applicational and practical. So on if you're competing over who's the better partner, I'm going to suggest that is a needs negotiation. Because what's happening there is someone has, or both parties have, compelling unmet needs. Because when they're saying or declaring that they're a better partner, what they're saying is they're doing for you stuff that you're not doing for them. Or they're saying that there's stuff that they need or want, desire that's not being done for them, that they do want. So rather than declaring yourself the victor and the better partner and your partner the loser and the worst partner, let us instead do a needs inventory. And let's be honest about what our compelling unmet needs are. And rather than blaming partner for that, let's focus on the solution, having identified the problem, and stop focusing on the problem and start talking about what needs can I affirmatively advocate for instead of occupying a position about lecturing and dictating to partner all the ways in which they're failing you. And how they should be feeling bad and guilty about failing you because you're doing such a good job of taking care of them. Because there you're trying to use guilt to incentivize better behavior and you're
Mhm.
weaponizing.
Mhm.
Okay. So what do we need? We need to negotiate needs. And what do we need to do that? Simple. You got to start with needs identification to then move to needs advocacy to then move to need fulfillment. In the framework, that means do the inventory and be honest about what your needs are. Don't shame yourself. Don't feel embarrassed by it. Be honest about it. How do you advocate? Well, that's how you make a proposal. A proposal for a rule is needs advocacy. And you do that with as much precision and specificity as you can muster. And then how do we get to need fulfillment? Well, we get to need fulfillment by negotiating a rule on that proposal, collaborating instead of competing, creating our rule that's reflective of our needs and values. And it is now enshrined in our relationship, and we now agree to play by it. Now we got need fulfillment. Everybody wins. Okay.
No, I'm just soaking it up over here.
Oh, okay. Um, on my time or my issue is more important than yours. There, I'm going to recommend that you negotiate a space for yourself, a space for your needs. So it's a little bit different than what we were talking about earlier. The trap and the manipulation here is that there shouldn't be or there is no room or space for your need because mine occupies such a large space and it should. So if my, for example, trauma or my pain or my time, whatever, occupies such a huge amount of space, then what we have a problem is there's no space here for you. There's no room here for you, where the you is metaphorical, your need, whatever it is. So we need to negotiate for space. Now, in doing so, we're not necessarily saying we got to negotiate for equivalency. It doesn't have to be a competition again about what's more important, what's more difficult, what's more deleterious, what's more damaging, what's more pathological. No, that devolves us to the original competition. What it needs to do is, or it needs to become, excuse me, is a collaborative discussion about how my stuff, my needs, wants, desires can occupy space within this space without it having to be something that undermines or does not acknowledge the space you think your stuff needs to occupy. So the metaphor here is a closet, right? I mean, it may not be the case that we've got a 50-50 distribution in the closet of your shit and my shit, right?
Not if it's a heterosexual relationship.
No. Right, right. So equivalency is not necessarily the goal here, right? Of the negotiation. Negotiated space is. So I'm not giving up anything if I give 75% of the closet to my partner because I don't need 50%. I really only need 25%. But I need that 25%, and I'm not going to be apologetic for it. And I'm not going to feel guilty that you need to find a way to make 75% work for my 25% to work. So we're going to negotiate space, but we're not going to get distracted by the arbitrary idea of equality or sort of symmetry or equal distribution there because it may not need that, right? We don't have to get caught up in judging or comparing the equivalency of needs, but rather the space that those occupy, just like a closet or a garage. Make sense?
It does, and I've actually seen this one a lot with chronic pain.
Speak to that.
Just with and not in my own it's other family, but of just it seemed like that almost took over life.
Yep.
It sort of encompassed almost all reality,
Mm-hmm.
and everything revolved around that. And it,
Yep.
and then and even it's, I think it can be even almost feel like a selfish thing
Mm-hmm.
to make it about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because that person might be experiencing some very, serious things.
Yep.
So just acknowledging the needs on both ends matter. I think even just a simple statement like that doesn't get said enough. So I really appreciate where you're going right
Yeah. Thank you.
now.
Yeah. And I too have seen this 1,000 times in chronic pain. And one of the most common examples is the chronic pain sufferer declares today's a bad pain day.
Mm-hmm.
And what that really means is there's no space for anything else here but my pain. So if anybody else says, well, yeah, but what about space for my stuff? You don't understand me at all. You don't respect me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. On and on and
Well,
on.
it's almost like a like chronic alcoholic or something or other,
Yes.
where it sets the tone for the whole home.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, it writes the rules.
Yeah.
And in so doing, it's functioning as rule decrees, certainly not negotiations. It's an announcement. I'm having a bad pain day, so code is you're all fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there's no space here for your needs, because my needs not only are more compelling, but should be, because they're special, because they're more difficult, because I go through more than you.
You remember when we had a conversation a while back about anger and disempowerment?
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like I can't imagine I guess it seems like a very extreme example of probably what one of the worst forms of disempowerment that I can think of would be dealing with chronic pain and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Or you have no power over it.
Right.
So I'm sure that's, and I don't know from personal experience how difficult this one is.
Yeah.
I've seen it, but
yeah. Interestingly and paradoxically, the only power you have over it is in deciding how much power it's going to have over you. And that's always my take on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is, if you got chronic pain, it's going to be there regardless. So no matter what you're doing, it's going to be there. So you might as well do things that serve you rather than serve pain as your master. Because it's going to be there regardless. Now, if you have unique special needs on chronic pain days, well, then we negotiate that with partner. But there still has to be space for that partner and that partner's needs to occupy. It cannot be the case that I'm having a bad pain day, casts a shadow on and obscures from vision the existence of anyone else or anyone else's needs. Nor should they have to sacrificially go to that place in order to demonstrate sufficient amount of empathy and understanding for you as the chronic pain sufferer. Because the chronic pain that they're experiencing dealing with your chronic pain is just as real. So what we got to negotiate is space, not equivalency. Okay. If the competition is I'm a better parent, we got to have a role negotiation there. That's usually what that's about. That's usually covert for I'm pissed off because I'm doing more of the heavy lifting, raising these fucking shitballs than you are. Okay.
And they look like you too.
Right. And they're starting to sound like you and mimic you, and that just pisses me off even more. Yeah. But really and truly, it's very often underneath that a role negotiation. And now that role could be who's the disciplinarian, who's the snuggle up and comfort. Can we exchange that and go back and forth? Does one parent always have to be the fun parent while the other one's the more strict parent? Does one parent always have to be the one that is the teacher of this or the admonisher of that? all of those roles can be negotiated. So rather than getting caught up in a competition of who's better because they're more sacrificial or because they do the heavier lifting or because they make the kids laugh more, whatever it is, it's really a negotiation about roles. And roles don't have to be fixed or monopolized by one parent. Both parents can be the disciplinarians, both parents can be the fun parents. We don't have to have a monolith in that negotiation. In fact, I would encourage you not to be. Never forget that kids are unionized against management. Management is parents. They're always looking to wedge in there.
They're union.
So, so I'm going to tell you what, the more you can confuse those little fuckers, the better. And the more that you can show up as a united front, the better. So if one day mom's the heavy and the next day the dad's the heavy and they're like, wait a minute, who's the heavy? You're winning, folks. So that's good, right? Doesn't have to be monolith. Now, if you want it to be that way, because those are your values and your preferences, then oh my gosh, do that because you're the architects of this system. But here, whatever you do, be consistent. And that's why a role negotiation and rules about roles is so very important, crucial if what we're competing over is who is or I am the better or the worse parent.
So get on the same page and communicate that.
Yep.
It seems like this seems like the very easy one to me. But again, I don't know.
Yeah. I think a lot of these they sound simple and easy because we make it sound simple and easy.
They're simple and easy when you're not full of resentment and rage.
Bingo.
It seems like. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So notice that we are adaptively treating in an attempt to reduce that resentment, anger, and rage by applying the framework, right? So that's an important notice.
Yeah.
And then finally, I need to be right. Here, I'm going to recommend either you have a negotiation or you yank your cranium out of your rectum and you realize that I need to be right is black and white thinking, either or thinking, bimodal thinking, because it presumes that there is a singular right and a singular wrong, and one person consistently occupies one or the other position. And I'm going to tell you that hardly anything in nature exists as an either or proposition, as a black and white thing. It is almost always a both and situation. Both of you can be right, and simultaneously both of you can be wrong, and that can all happen in the same issue area. This is why conflict and warfare is so daunting and so confusing to so many people. But let's remember, black and white thinking, bimodal thinking, is our attempt at managing the anxiety of complexity. So we're imposing artificially upon reality an either or proposition because we're overwhelmed and anxious about its complexity. Okay. Problem is, we exited reality, and when we create bimodal categories, we lose information, we lose data. And that's not a good way to navigate or solve problems. Okay. If instead we realize it's a both and situation, then we can both be right and we can both be wrong, and there doesn't need to be a victor. And by the way, since we remember in the framework that we separate person from behavior, and since we remember that we separate person from idea, what we can say is that thinking was wrong, that idea was wrong, and I don't have to be the one that's wrong. And the same thing is true about rightness. Yeah, it turns out that that thought was right. That doesn't mean I'm right. It just means the thought was right, or the thought was wrong, or somewhere in between, right? So I'm going to encourage either a negotiation on the both and-ness of reality, or just pull your head out of your ass and realize that it's not hardly ever a black and white situation unless we're talking about pregnancy. I mean, either you are or you're not, Outside of that, there's not a lot of black and white situations going on. So just remember that and realize you can be simultaneously right and wrong. And you can do that together with your partner, and that can all happen at the same time. So there's no clarity achieved, and there's certainly no victory achieved by assigning rightness or wrongness to one or the other, because it's a both and situation.
Yeah. I think you're right about that.
Okay. Well, that was me to we. At the end of the day, why are you in a relationship? Why are you in a marriage? Right? It's not about you. It's not about me. We didn't get together for that purpose. If it was just me, you'd be single and be fine, right? We got to move from me to we. Competition is the thing that undermines, severs that partnership of we. It is antithetical to the very reason why you're together in the first place. So understand that in relationships, competition is not a good thing. It is not a healthy thing. It doesn't produce positive results like it does in other situations in nature. It just doesn't. Collaboration does. So when you recognize some of these competitive dynamics or the consequences of competitive dynamics or specific competitions, move immediately to identifying what the needs are and what the proposals can be and go into the negotiations recommended. And if you get stuck on something that we haven't brought up, you're not sure what to do, well, guess what? You can call, you can email, you can reach out, you can comment. We're here to help. So let us know, and we'll be happy to do what we can to help you through it. But here's where you apply the framework. And on this, I'm going to tell you, you change your thinking about competition, you can change your life and move to collaboration. That's the framework. And that's a wrap. Anything to add, my brother?
I think I did better than you on this podcast.
I think you did too.
Since it's a competition.
Yeah.
And
you
see what
win.
I did there.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I was wrong to think that I could.
Yeah, right. All right.
All right. Thank you very much. As always, thank you for listening. Please comment, like, subscribe, do all the things. And if there's something you would like to hear us take on, something you'd like for us to discuss, unfuck, figure out, let us know. We'll be happy to take it on.
Email him about his golf swing.
And how magnificent it is. But more than that, my ball flight. Because it's not about having the prettiest golf swing. It's about having the prettiest, most effective ball flight.
And you are the ball shrink.
I am the ball shrink. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On that note.
And on that note,
good night,
fuck everybody. You, right? Because that's yours with golf, which is hilarious, by the way. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.